Hello, hello. Just checking that you can hear me.
So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to Interchain Jam. Interchain Jam is a podcast that streams live on Cosmos that focuses on interchain projects and builders that use the Interchain stack. I'm today's host. My name is Mary. I'm the product marketing lead for IBC at the Interchain Foundation. And today I am humbled to have as a co-host the Interchain Foundation president, Brian Crane. Welcome, Brian. Would you like to say a couple words to our guests?
Yeah, hey everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in and being here, and thanks so much for organizing this and having me. Yeah, I'm excited to talk today about IBC and all the exciting projects that have been building on IBC or developing IBC. So I think it's one of the most exciting technologies in the entire crypto space. So I'm super glad we get to dive into it today.
And today, oh,
yeah. And sorry for those who maybe don't know me. So I've been involved in the Cosmos space for a long time. So I was part of the kind of original Cosmos team in 2017 when the fundraiser happened and it all started. And I've been involved in different ways since then. One is through running Chorus One, which is running staking infrastructure, lots of Cosmos chains, and then also being on the board and now the president of the Interchain Foundation.
we are truly lucky to have you leading the Interchain Foundation, Brian. And I'm very glad you could be here today because you will offer us that 360 view across the whole ecosystem. And for our guests, today is a very historic day, not only for our ecosystem, but for blockchain technology in general, because today is the 3-year anniversary of the first ever IBC transaction. 3 years ago today, the first channel was opened. It was between Cosmos Hub and IrisNet, and the first IBC transaction was sent between those two chains. Today, IBC has over 115 chains participating in the network, and we handle about 8.8 million asset transfers per month and over 3 billion of volume. And to celebrate this, we have brought together a fantastic group of speakers. We have two parts of our space today. The first part is IBC expanders, so projects that have done incredible work in bringing IBC to more communities, more users. And these guests include leads from Osmosis, Cosmos Hub, DYDX, and Celestia. And then in the second part of our space, we will have guests from the development teams who build IBC. This includes the Interchain Foundation, Informal Systems, and Strangelove, and they will talk to us about the future of the IBC protocol technology itself, and they'll give us a taste of what is coming in the future. So with that, everyone, we're going to make sure our guests are on stage, and then we will go ahead and bring up our first, we'll kick off with the first section featuring Osmosis, Cosmos Hub, DYDX, and Celestia.
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
So guys, I'd love if each of you could do a quick primer on who you are. So we have Aaron from Osmosis, Tristan from DYDX. We also have NashQ from Celestia. NashQ, I'm trying to bring you up right now. Twitter is not cooperating. And then we will also have Jehan from the Cosmos Hub as well. But Aaron, could you possibly kick us off with an introduction to you, your role in Osmosis?
Yeah, so Aaron Kong here with the Osmosis Labs team. I started off with the sub DAOs, which is, like 2.5 years ago. The Osmosis community felt that sub DAOs needed to exist. And essentially, the sub DAOs were specialized in bringing support. So if you kind of need support in this Cosmos ecosystem, you'll find that the Osmosis Support Lab, funded by the Osmosis Community Pool, is everywhere, and they help out with everything from your general brand new retail user that doesn't know how to use a wallet to technical, like far more complex technical needs, or to QAing maybe like APR issues. They are everywhere, and this is kind of where I started about 2.5 years ago. And then I joined the Osmosis Labs team, and at those Osmosis Labs teams, I focus on growth. So this would be anything from like marketing to BD to strategy, or to hopping on podcasts. So glad to be here.
Cool. Well, I would say let's do the other introductions as well, and then I think it would be great if you can dive into a little bit of details. But maybe let's go to Tristan.
Cool. Hey guys. I hope everyone can hear me. But Tristan Dickinson, I work for DYDX Foundation. So got a bit of a background in kind of banking, fintech, and etc. But yeah, for DYDX Foundation and the head of marketing and communications. And then yeah, very quickly on DYDX, I think most people are familiar, and I won't take long. I'll give it really a very quick TLDR. But DYDX, decentralized perpetual trading platform. It's on the 4th iteration of the protocol, which we call the DYDX chain, which was launched on Cosmos, as you guys know. But really, it's a layer 1 that's focused on traders. And we'll deep dive a little bit more into kind of how IBC has really helped to unlock some use cases for DYDX. But yeah, that's a very quick TLDR.
And let's go to Nash Q. Is that?
Yep. Hi. I'll be here for Celestia. Me personally, I'm a protocol research engineer. So I look into how modular architecture is built, how different stacks work together. And one of the core things is also bridging. And Celestia itself is a data availability layer. You probably heard of it. Rollups use Celestia and leverage it to scale and easily deploy. Yep.
Cool. Thanks, Nash Q. And then I don't know, Jihan, are you here as well? Okay, then maybe we get to Jihan later. Well, I would say let's go. Maybe we can go back to Aaron. And can you tell us a little bit, like, what does IBC usage look like for osmosis today? I think it would be interesting if you can talk a little bit about, what sort of the volume, what's the importance of IBC for the chain, and maybe also like the type of IBC, the type of IBC transactions that are being used at the moment.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think like in terms of volume, IBC is incredibly important for osmosis. Without IBC, osmosis as it functions right now just would not work. You need this seamless, like the most native and the most seamless bridging feature for the entire industry. And with that, this is like the root of the whole Cosmos, right? And this is IBC also helps with the entire vision of Cosmos, and especially the vision for osmosis. It's just like to bring this entirely seamless ecosystem together, so that even if I think one of the big things that people always stress is like fragmentation, right? But is Cosmos actually fragmented, or is it actually not fragmented because IBC ensures that it is it solves the fragmentation problem. In ESOL, there's that conversation between, was it Adrian and was it Zaki up on stage as well, and Vitalik, and I think, was it Adrian? He was just like, just use IBC, like stop the discussion, just use IBC. And it's because it just bridges everything together so seamlessly. But yeah, for osmosis, like the 30-day chart is around 1.4 or 1.5 billion in IBC volume, and it's just a testament to show how seamless and how how perfect the technology is. Cross my fingers there, but to say the word perfect, but I do believe it really is a perfect technology right now, and it's definitely the best in the entire space. But this also allows these ideas of things like mesh security to be created, and things like ICA to work, interchain accounts, and even osmosis outposts. And these are all things that really like bridge together needs that the Cosmos ecosystem has, whether it's plug into different security solutions or allowing Osmosis to dispatch an outpost onto another chain so that this other chain can use all the liquidity on Osmosis. And one of the main visions for Osmosis is to be be the greatest DEX in the entire space, whether it's having all the liquidity on Osmosis or to be able to source that liquidity or to dispatch that liquidity. IBC really like helps empower this vision.
And can you talk a little bit about, like you mentioned, Interchain accounts and some like if you take sort of, obviously token transfer is by far the most important thing, but like how are you what's the sort of percentage of other types of IBC interactions now, and how has them been developing, let's say in the last 6 months?
I think one of the biggest things was like, really excited to see that DYDX came over. And, initially when DYDX came over and USDC and CCTP wasn't yet live for USDC, we were kind of like, we had this feature on Osmosis. I believe they were using the stable swap pools to like, to swap through and come through into the Cosmos. But it was really nice. Like, you need this, seamless IBC to allow this onboarding from Ethereum over through Osmosis with Noble USDC into DYDX. That was really cool. But I guess for like different types of IBC transactions, I'm not sure like what to touch on there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just curious because, right, like let's say interchain accounts is like a more new, like in the beginning there was just token transfer, right? And then more recently they are, let's say Stride, right? I think is leveraging interchain accounts, and I think there will be some other ones. So I'm curious if you're seeing at the moment, do we see like increased uptake from these other types of IBC transactions, and are there particular ones that, or particular use cases where you see the most?
I'm not sure about the upticks and like actual numbers, but I think one thing that would be like really exciting for these, I guess, like different sorts of transactions would be the smart accounts that Osmosis is bringing. And I think with smart accounts, if we can, not only include IBC and like interchain accounts and ensuring that cross-chain usage of smart accounts, this will be incredibly powerful. So it's just like whether it's a new user or an existing user, to just have a simple single smart account and like be able to dispatch through the entire Cosmos ecosystem, I think this will be incredibly like UX powerful. I think everyone will appreciate how seamless this will become. And the end goal is that like no one knows that there are different chains. They just know that it works and it's seamless. Of course, like the savvy users or the OGs or the people that are like in the DeFi will know this. But to onboard the next million users or the next 10 million users, you want to make it as seamless as possible on the UX side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Mary mentioned, or someone mentioned Seoul, so I think we were both in Seoul before, where there's this Biddle Asia conference, and I think chain abstraction was like, again and again the topic there, and I think that's like super on point here. Yeah, let's go to Tristan. Maybe you can talk a little bit about like DYDX and its usage of IBC, and maybe also like where are things going there, like how do you see DYDX IBC usage evolving in the future?
Cool. Yeah. So let me just talk a little bit about DYDX, but I'm going to focus on DYDX chain. So I mentioned before, fourth iteration of the protocol. So there's DYDX v3. Now we're at DYDX v4. The DYDX chain launched last year, I think 26th of October. Genesis validators launched the first block. Since then, it's been really positive adoption, 94 billion in cumulative trading volume. I think almost 16 million USDC distributed, and I think over kind of 500K to close to 1 million daily trades executed on the platform. And really, part of the reasoning for migrating across, there was a lot of different reasons, but it really helped with higher throughput and finality of trades. And I think we've seen that, to be honest. So, when BTC hit all-time highs, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we saw large-scale issues across sectors not being able to handle the throughput. But, the team monitored that the DYDX chain worked smoothly. Also moving across enabled full decentralization, which allows the community to govern and control the DYDX protocol. Also, DYDX stakers receive 100% of protocol fees for securing the chain, which is really, really important. And then there's no real reliance on anyone else's roadmap. And DYDX chain, as I mentioned, is custom built for single use case, which is perpetual trading. So what is really IBC enabled and unlocked, I guess, for the DYDX chain, and Aaron touched on it, before. There's a few different kind of products, but we're also quite new to this space, less than 5 months. So some of the different integrations that are really important to us was Noble. Aaron touched on this, but it's critical, right? Brings in liquidity. It's a major boost for Cosmos ecosystem, but also on the DYDX chain that uses USDC as collateral. I think in the last 30 days, there's been more than 670 million in, and I think in and out, and I think over 500 million in volume to the DYDX chain, and I think that ranks us maybe third when it comes to total IBC volume on the Interchain. But yeah, really, really critical for the DYDX chain itself. And I think if you look at the user base, it's approximately 17 to 20K per month kind of active users, and I think Cosmos Hub and Celestia is closer to 300K, right? So DYDX chain aspires to kind of reach those levels of monthly active users, and I think IBC is really key to this. One other thing that I'll mention, which is around liquid staking. So you can liquid stake with Stride or P-Stake Finance and also Quicksilver, and it's really good for users, turns in a liquid asset liquid, but also from a chain point of view, then it really helps to decentralize the validator set. And I think there's stake weight distributed to proxy 40 or 50 different validators. And just from a community perspective, there's a recent community vote to deposit 20 million in community treasury DYDX, to Stride, and that's because IBC has enabled this to happen. But some of the reasons, it really helps with economic security and decreasing stake concentration in top validators. But also interestingly, it gives the community another diversified treasury angle, so it can generate USDC for community treasury. So I think DYDX is connected to kind of 20 different Cosmos chains, but really, I think connections are only going to increase significantly, and really the scale with which DYDX increases its presence in Cosmos, I think that'll continue to happen. Because it's, like I said, very new, less than kind of 5 months since launching the DYDX chain on Cosmos. And it's really interesting. I think it's map of zones, and you can kind of see a flywheel that everyone's connected to. And if you just look at Osmosis, I think the flywheel's, it's at its entirety, everyone's connected. And I think if you look at DYDX, there are definitely building connections, and there's a lot of different use cases that are really benefits users. But I think what we'll see is more people building and contributing and joining and expanding different use cases that focuses heavily on users, but specifically that focuses on traders. So yeah, we're really excited about IBC and what it's enabled, but we're very, very excited and thrilled to see what more will come throughout the rest of the year. And and how permissionless markets is something that IBC is kind of unlocking, but I can touch on that later.
Cool. Thanks so much. And now, Nash, be great to talk a little bit about Celestia and the role IBC there. Especially also curious if you can expand a bit on how do you see IBC working with the Celestia rollups?
Yeah. So Celestia is in a unique place because it wants to minimize state and the execution set. So on Celestia, you basically can only do 3 or 4 things. You can submit blobs, which is basically the rollup data that is submitted on chain and the main use case. Then you can send TIA to each other, stake it, and I guess the last thing is you can use IBC to bridge TIA out. And because of the limited set, you want to minimize the execution set to be able to, in the future, very efficiently prove state consensus and correctness in a trust minimized way. And IBC was pretty clutch because Celestia uses the Cosmos SDK stack. You basically get it out of the box, and there is customization. And one of the customization that Celestia uses is a token filter, in that sense that to minimize state of, let's say, other tokens on your chain, you only accept TIA to bridge in and out. And that way, you don't get additional state growth from other tokens. And if there wouldn't be IBC on launch, I think it was like 6 months ago, then there would be no way to access the token except through custodians or central exchanges. So that's basically how IBC is used currently. And I could go into the future of how Celestia might expand on IBC or how rollups will use IBC. And I'll pick the rollups first. You can imagine that IBC currently, you have a 2/3 honest majority assumption on your another chain. But if you want rollups to bridge to each other, you most likely want to reduce that trust assumption from a committee to at maximum 1 honest full node assumption for fraud proofs or ZK proofs. And because that technology isn't available, currently the only way to bridge, let's say from Celestia to a rollup, is through a bridging hub that connects those two things together. In the future, and you can read more about that on the Celestia forum, there's a lot of research there, so I encourage everyone to check that out, where there's something called snark accounts. And with snark accounts, you can have trust minimized bridging between a chain and a ZK rollup by introducing minimal state to the chain. So there is this path going forward, like how to do trust minimized bridging through snark accounts. And then there's another path where, okay, how to do it on the IBC native way, and what kind of primitives do we need? Because rollup might use a different shared sequencer, they might use a different DA layer, and all of those clients have to work together. And there has been some great work done by the IBC Go team on conditional clients, how these can interact with each other.
What's the conditional client?
You can imagine that I, as a rollup, need to be able to verify that data is included on Celestia. Only when I know that it is on there, I can start the fraud-proof window, or actually make sure that someone else can create a ZK proof or reconstruct the state. So with that, there are, let's say, rollup bridges to chain B. And on chain B, I would have an execution client. That's the one that handles fraud proofs or ZK proofs. But I would also have a data availability client. So in this case, it would be Celestia's IBC client, but as a conditional client with the ability to have some extra verification. So IBC clients can talk to each other to be able to verify that, hey, yes, this data was included over that commitment, and this ZK proof is correct. So let me unlock the tokens, and there you go. So it's really about how the modular stack can be connected, and bridges are just on-chain light clients. So when they talk to each other, you basically will have conditional light clients because they define the trust assumptions of the rollup or of the bridge.
Cool, thank you. One thing I would be curious about, and I don't know who of you would like to talk about that, but so far we've talked a lot about, and all these IBC connections are basically between different Cosmos chains. But of course, the crypto universe is larger than just Cosmos SDK chains. So do you guys think that IBC will also be the primary technology that's being used to connect to, Ethereum or other types of networks, or like layer 2s, Arbitrum, etc.? And or like, how do you guys see that playing out?
I think I'd like to hop in because recently I've been working with a few teams that have been working on implementing IBC across other ecosystems, whether it's Ethereum or Polkadot or Near. These are all like within a few steps of launching. I think composable and Ethereum are any day now. Polkadot's already live. There's there's Near coming via Octopus Network, and I don't know if I can say that this will be the bridge for all ecosystems in the future, but I do think that if it begins, then it will continue to grow, and if it continues to grow, then it'll only get adopted more and more. And the dream would be that this does take place, because this just makes the entire industry as seamless as Cosmos makes it right now. And I think one thing that you see within Cosmos is that there's not as much infighting as there used to be, and now it's a lot more collaborative. But then you see these other ecosystems that kind of compete with each other. But I think IBC kind of brings everyone together. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
I think I might jump in as well, and I definitely agree with you, Aaron. I'm not sure that it's definitely IBC, but if you just think about it from a user perspective, and if you asked the standard person, on the street, and they'll be saying, have you bought cryptocurrency? And they might say, yes, I bought Bitcoin. And they'll be like, did you buy Bitcoin in Ethereum or AVAX or whatever it might be? And then kind of you'll lose them, right? So I think what's really important is just to focus on the use case of making it simple and easy for people to onboard and offboard. And I think IBC really does this, and I think really enables this in the Cosmos and soon to be broader ecosystem. So I think there's, use case wise, this is a huge use case and it really benefits end users. And I think we're likely to see this kind of proliferate, as more people onboard and it becomes easier to move between different chains. It really reduces friction. A friend of mine was quite fluent in crypto, was trying to participate in a funding round, which was actually on AVAX, and then he had to bridge his assets to AVAX, but it was USDT, not USDE, and then he had to bridge back. Made a mistake with the bridge and kind of missed out on the funding round and the potential, and that was just from not having good connectivity. So I think IBC has done a great job in Cosmos and kind of highlighted the single-minded use case of making it easy for users.
I think NashQ is having some difficulties with coming back here, but hopefully we can get him back soon. One thing I'm also curious about, so there's a project Union that's working on ZK IBC, and I think there may be some other people trying to do something similar. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you guys feel like ZK, like kind of being a core part of how IBC works, is that the future, or like what do you guys think?
Maybe I'll jump in here quickly. I think it's an interesting concept, and ZK's got, it's got its place in the crypto ecosystem, but there also needs to be, dependent on who it is to a little bit. DGENS is really important for ZK, and I think it's an important aspect for user expansion, but there will come requirements from projects or institutions where they need to know a little bit more about a certain person, a customer, or whatever it may be. So I think it's something that really helps to scale in a kind of permissionless manner, but there may come a need at some stage for a higher level of kind of knowledge or understanding of who it is behind certain aspects or integrations. But yeah, it's a very ZK anything really, ZK proofs or whatever it may be. It's something that's really engineered towards ensuring that it kind of crypto users remain anonymous, but remain anonymous in a safe way.
Yeah. So yeah, NashQ, welcome back. Actually, there was sort of a previous question and this question. Let me repeat both, and then you can decide if you want to answer one or both of them. The question before was basically around, whether you see IBC as the interoperability protocol that will be used not just to connect between Cosmos chains, but between Ethereum, L2s across the entire crypto ecosystem. And then my other question was around whether your thoughts on ZK IBC and whether like using ZK as a core part of IBC is sort of like the direction things will go.
Yeah. So I would say that IBC currently is well placed to be to bridge between hundreds or thousands of chains. But if we enter an era where we're going to have 10,000s or millions of chains, then there probably will need some improvements. And I feel the roll-up to roll-up bridging, especially, is a use case which should be more explored, in the sense that if you go from L2 to L1 and back to L2, you might use an unnecessary step, because unless it's, of course, ETH native assets. But if the asset is native to the L2, from the Cosmos perspective, this is like bad pathing, because why not just bridge directly from L2 to another L2? And I feel like this is where IBC can shine to set a standard for those protocols to adapt to. And go away from the notation of, okay, L2 to L1. In the Cosmos world, there are just chains connected to each other. And I think that will bring much more sovereignty to those chains and give more power to the native assets and alleviate maybe downsides that the L1 has. Let's say you will have 12-minute finality for Ethereum, but you don't want that, so you can have much faster bridging of some higher guarantees between L2s. And I think another step that IBC has to take at some point, which then will enable ZK IBC or optimistic IBC, is to go from a committee-based bridge to a trust-minimized bridge, where I only need to have one honest person to actually use and create the proof. The tokens aren't locked on another chain. I'm not dependent on the liveness. I can do forced withdrawals. Basically have all the features that an L2 to L1 bridge has, but with the standard of IBC. I feel that would be the dream that we should strive for best user protection and best interoperability.
Thanks for expanding on that. I saw there's a question being asked by Dr. K QQ. He is that I've heard that a lot of Cosmos chains are having issues with finality. Specifically, they're trying to use proof of work commitments via Babylon to improve finality. How does this affect moving between Cosmos chains with something like IBC? Actually, I think I can answer that one. Well, I don't think a lot of Cosmos chains are having issues with finality, right? Cosmos, basically, Comet BFD and Tendermint are such that every block is final, and then that kind of guarantee can be used by IBC. I wonder, though, if Babylon or something like that, do you guys feel like there's a role for some kind of proof of work commitment thing in IBC? Maybe between with other chains, I'm not sure. Anyone have
I think what he's talking about is, I'm guessing, is posting the IBC header or something along the line to Bitcoin and timestamp it to alleviate long-range attacks. I think that's what it says. So it's not more about timestamping, but it's more about the unbonding time for staking, which can be reduced, which is a different topic. And yeah.
Yeah. Maybe final question. What are there some new types of IBC transactions or IBC enabled use cases that you guys are particularly looking forward to? I mean, I guess Aaron mentioned, I think, the smart accounts thing, where basically you have like one account on Osmosis controlling sort of addresses on different Cosmos chains. I'm curious about, Tristan, Nash Q. Yeah, what are some of the maybe completely novel use cases that IBC will enable that, we haven't, that they're not really on our people's radar yet?
So for Celestia, maybe it's not that novel, but it's from the perspective in the sense that there's a proposition as a CIP to add ICA to Celestia interchain accounts, and that primarily will give chains like Stride or protocols like Milky Way the opportunity to go from a multi-sig, which is the only way to, like, the most distributed way to hold an account currently on Celestia, to a interchain account. So this will unlock liquid staking because there's that demand for it. And the other addition would be PFM as the only way currently to bridge rollups is through a bridging hub. Then if two rollups that use two different bridging hubs want to talk to each other, it would involve a lot of hops. And something like PFM could alleviate that in a sense that you can bridge in one transaction and find your pathway to your destination chain. So one thing would be better security assumptions, and the other would be UX. And this is like short-term practical things. Long-term, I'm more curious and excited about rollup IBC, snark accounts, how they talk to each other, how we might be able to get rid of the relayer by just publishing to Celestia, to like eliminate the incentivization problem, things like that, to improve it and make it as efficient as possible, reduce the size of the header, better encoding, things like that. So I think that would be what the future would hold.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks so much to all three of you. I think it's been really amazing to have you guys on, and it's super amazing the work and success you guys are all having with your projects, and I think it's having a massive impact on IBC interoperability and the future of Cosmos. I'm super excited to see how things are going to turn out with all three of your projects in the next while. So now we want to switch to talking with our some of the core teams that are actually building IBC. So we have here in the call, so we have Susanna, who is part of the, who leads the kind of team at the ICF, the IBC Go team. And then I think we also have Justin from Strangelove, and I think Adi from Informal System should be here. So I think you guys have to invite to speak. Let's see. Yeah, maybe we can, let's have you, Susanna, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I could start while the other kind of speaker logistics is going on. So yeah, I'm Susanna. I'm part of the IBC team at the Interchain Foundation. I'm the product lead, so I work on setting the strategy, direction, prioritization for the protocol. We work specifically on the Go implementation, so that's the module used by all of the chains we've just been speaking with. So Celestia, Osmosis, basically all of the Cosmos chains out there. So yeah, thank you for inviting me on.
Cool, thanks so much, Susanna. And then Adi, let's hear from you.
Hey there. Yeah, I'm with Informal Systems. I'm a director of product here. I work on IBC, primarily the Hermes IBC relayer, and also on the IBC modules written in Rust that are kind of helping with the expansion of IBC from the Rust side of ecosystems. Yep, that would be it.
Cool, thanks so much. Well, maybe go back to Susanna. What's the long-term vision of IBC? Like, if you think of like 5-10 years down the line, what would you like to happen with this protocol?
So I think we've all been talking about the kind of 3-year successes, and we have a really rich IBC network of predominantly Cosmos-based chains. There is a connection to the Polkadot and GESARA ecosystem, but I think ultimately the long-term vision for the protocol is around expansion and being a true interoperability standard for blockchains of different types, not just Comet SDK chains. So, this would include connecting Ethereum, Solana, different rollup frameworks, but basically it should become the standard de facto solution that people would use when they want to create any kind of blockchain or decentralized system, and just be able to kind of seamlessly connect to all of these other chains which have also opted to use this solution, and really just break down any kind of barrier to communication, or kind of remove those walled gardens, as they say, and allow value tokens, data just to seamlessly flow between these decentralized systems that we're working on.
Cool. Do you have any thoughts on this, Adi, or like?
I believe we have Ethereal One from Strangelove as well. He's joined as a speaker now too.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. It took a few minutes for it to like reconnect as a speaker.
Cool, fantastic. Then yeah, let's go Hugh. Can you introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about what Strangelove is doing related to IBC?
Yeah, so my name's Justin. I'm the newly appointed director of engineering at Strangelove. I was the first employee at Strangelove. I've been there for actually just about 3 years now. I got into Cosmos right around the Starport upgrade, which was the upgrade to kind of integrate IBC. And I've kind of been here since IBC's launch. Strangelove is primarily a shop that focuses on IBC. So we develop many kind of integrations with IBC as far as middleware. We work on the Go relayer. And historically, we've kind of been focused on the expansion and the proliferation of IBC into other ecosystems.
Cool. Let's talk about the roadmap. So 2024, what's Susanna, what are the main items that are on the roadmap?
So I think on a high level, the kind of strategic product direction, you can think about it in two ways. So you've got the kind of push of trying to get IBC connections formed with non-Cosmos chains, and then you've got the pull of making IBC as easy to use and feature-rich kind of protocol that there is, so that people just naturally want to use the protocol. So it's kind of like a two-pronged strategic approach, and you can kind of then think of the kind of push approach as all of the expansion-related work. So we had a particular focus on roll-up frameworks. The first kind of IBC connection with a roll-up framework. Well, we've already seen this live on Dimension, but we've been working with Celestia and the Rollkit team to enable native IBC interoperability between Rollkit rollups. We've also been working on the OP stack. And I know that Adi and Informal have been working with the Sovereign SDK team to enable IBC natively there. So yeah, general kind of expansion goals with a focus on the modular ecosystem. And then in terms of usability, we touched on earlier that there's token transfer being like the bread and butter of IBC, but really there's a lot more beyond just moving tokens around. Interchain accounts is kind of like a flagship application, and perhaps slightly ahead of its time when it was launched. And now we're seeing more and more use cases cropping up. And with that, we get a lot more product input and feedback on how we can improve that and make it easier for people to use. So there's some improvements around enabling queries directly with ICA, enabling more complicated cross-chain workflows, which bundle together transfer and ICA. So now you can not just move your token between chain, but now you can send your token and send it to an account, which will then do something with those tokens. So just generally, any usability improvements that makes that a lot easier to use. So that our hope is that we won't just see tokens just being moved everywhere, but we'll actually see more developed cross-chain apps. And I guess like a big feature that would enable that is we call it multi-channel atomicity. But yeah, I'd say those are probably some of the big features. Also improvements to transfer. We generally want to just, this goal of making IBC easier to use. So we can think of anything that previously had to do with 2 transactions. We try and make that possible with 1 transaction. So for example, if you were on one chain and you wanted to send say you want to send your tokens to Osmosis and LP, normally there's at least 2 tokens, 2 different types of tokens in liquidity pool. So you'd need to perform 2 transfers and then deposit or supply liquidity into the pool. So with ICS20 v2, we enable you to send 2 different or multiple denoms in a single transfer message. So yeah, general usability improvements in that vein. Yeah, I'd say those are probably the biggest things coming up this year, at least.
Cool. That's a bunch of exciting stuff coming up. What about you, Adi? What are you guys focused on?
Yeah, Susanna already mentioned one of the biggest things we're working on, which is integrating IBC and making it available for sovereign-based rollups. That has been going on for a few months, and we're now able to do some client updates. We're able to establish connections. It's not yet at the point where tokens are just flowing freely. It's also partly because the SDK is still under development. The sovereign SDK is still under development. And we're actually starting to think what could be the next. So on the Rust expansion front of IBC, there was a slow but very steady progress. We started with Nomic in 2021 late, and then 2022. Then Composable took IBCRS into Substrain world. Then we work with Sovereign, now with Sovereign, and it's a good question. What will we be doing afterwards? We have our eyes on a couple of major projects from Ethereum world, L2s. The 2 ones that come to mind are Arbitrum and Starkware, and we're going to see which of them is most feasible. We're going to approach it in kind of the same way that the IBC Go team did, with doing some preliminary research and investigating how easy it is to deploy the Rust modules there. And then it's going to take a few months probably to get it ready, but this is going to be the rest of 2024 and early 2025 for us, if I was to summarize it. And of course, trying to keep up with everything that's happening on the IBC Go side. All of this amazing stuff that Susanna just mentioned, they need to be supported in relayers. So both the Go relayer, Justin's team, and the Hermes IBC relayer, we sometimes even actually find it difficult to keep up with all the good things that are happening with the IBC Go modules to support the current users essentially and to expand the current use cases.
Fantastic. And what about you, Tristan? Justin.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of what Adi was just talking about, we're seeing more and more kind of Rust-powered chains that are building on top of IBC, chains that are kind of, Comet BFT underneath, but not necessarily using the Cosmos SDK. An important part for us is ensuring that, libraries that are written in Go, all of these kind of like existing client libraries and software that are in the ecosystem, making sure that they have the ability to kind of interoperate with these Rust chains. So, things like, adding support for Penumbra inside of the relayer and interchain tests, ensuring that, we have support for beyond Rust, just like Solidity in interchain tests and all the kind of testing tools and infrastructure that we've built. And just continuing to kind of ensure that the Go ecosystem doesn't get left behind as we kind of expand to other programming languages. Beyond that, of course, like Adi mentioned, there's the always evolving task of keeping up with IBC Go inside of the relayer. So ensuring that we have feature parity for things like channel upgradability, the fee module that was built, or the fee middleware. And beyond that, just continuing to focus on other ecosystems that we can kind of bring IBC to. We kind of wrapped up our work on the 08 Wazam module and our work with Composable to bring IBC to Polkadot. We're kind of in the final stages now, working with the Landside team to bring IBC to Avalanche. And I think once that work is finished, we'll have our eyes set on some other ecosystem that we can kind of work with teams within that ecosystem to build new light clients and bring IBC beyond the cosmos.
Well, it's great that not just you, but your cat is also passionate about IBC. So that's
very passionate.
yes. We're pretty much up with our time. I don't know if any one of you wants to, share some final thoughts.
Well, I have some thoughts on it. So I think, 3 years is clearly a massive landmark, and I think IBC was really ahead of its time. Clearly, like now we see a lot more kind of bridge projects and things like this cropping up, but in my opinion, I don't think any of these other projects and solutions have had as much kind of thought and as much of a genuine community built around it. And IBC was really built with trying to keep with the core kind of blockchain values of decentralization, not adding in, additional trust assumptions to use these systems. And I think that's, made it such a strong protocol. It's going to obviously keep growing, expanding. I think the only way is like up, more chains will join the network. More diverse ecosystems will be able to speak IBC. So I think it's been a really incredible 3 years, and I can see like Aditya is in the crowd, one of the earliest workers who's still working on IBC today. So yeah, it's clearly a very impressive journey.
The only way is up.
Yeah, there are lots of rocket emojis in there.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I think that was really fun. And congrats to everyone for contributing to this, whether it's the people building it or also the people using it and contributing to all of this IBC activity. I think I'm sure we're going to see a massive amount of, growth and also cool new use cases that will get enabled by IBC in the coming years. And so, thanks so much for joining us today. And it's exciting to be on this journey together.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And if anyone has any wishes for the future of IBC, then my DMs are always open.
Absolutely. Yeah, get in touch with Susanna if you want to give her more work to do and some feature requests. Absolutely. Cool.